It's not every day you start the adventure of a lifetime. It's not every night you live stream your great escape. Hope everybody's doing good tonight. What we got on here too? Fantastic. Hi guys. Looks like we're gonna go through episodes 10 and 11 tonight. Yeah.
Welcome back for episode 10 of my Mississippi River trip. We are now on our third week kayaking on the river, so it is time for another update on my location. We have made tremendous progress since our last check-in, passing by Red Wing, Minnesota, leaving Brainerd far behind from week 2, and Grand Rapids at the end of week 1. Now on a much straighter, stronger, and thus faster river, we are well on our way and making excellent progress. It's a beautiful start to the day, so let's get out there.
Morning, day 23 on the river, and just leaving camp. It's a little before 7:30. Today's goals, I guess, are miles. Just want to get some miles in heading downriver. Make up for some lost time over the past few days. It's supposed to be hot again, and we're supposed to have a chance for severe weather later in the day. So I'm gonna try to check the radar every time I pass a town, and if it looks like it's coming in, I might try to find somewhere to hold up in that town until the weather passes. I know there's a island next to Winona that has a marina, and that might not be a terrible place to stop and see if there's somewhere to stay if the weather's bad. But we'll see how it goes. So. Around the corner in this little town, get their sirens blaring. I'm not sure if their tests are on a different day than Minnesota. Normally ours is the first Wednesday of the month. So they're either not happy that I'm coming through with the test, or there's something that I'm not.
Figure we don't need to hear the siren blaring, but it was kind of unusual. It just kind of kicked in out of nowhere, and of course, you know, with severe weather being a potential, I was looking everywhere thinking something was up. I used to be a firefighter, a volunteer firefighter, so we used to have pagers that would go off. Obviously, it's done a little different in the small towns. I don't know how the people in this town sleep. The first air raid sirens, now a train horn blowing. Holy moly.
Weird. Interesting. Looks like the fire truck just took off out of that town. I wonder if they're...
I'll tell you too, the bluffs in this area are awesome. It's just hill after hill after hill after hill.
It's interesting.
It's real cool to paddle along. It's always kind of neat too to see these little small towns just kind of tucked into these little valleys of the bluffs.
Good morning, Lockendam 5. How do you read?
Making it to the second Lockendam 5. I wait my turn before entering the lock.
Good morning. It's your lock.
Sound good? The lock operators are always super kind to me. A lot of them just wanted to hear about the trip and just kind of hear about what was going on. And as long as you weren't showing up while there was a bunch of towboats and barges and stuff coming through, they were always happy to chat with you and see how things were going. Yeah, that storm that rolled in, I was kind of paddling down a back channel here, and I had seen it for a while, and boy, I started paddling when it started catching up on me. And called my wife, I asked her if she'd find me a hotel somewhere at this little town, and luckily she did. At the marina for the night, and even gave it its own building to ride out the storms. Yeah, I showed up at the Trompe-l'Œil Marina, and boy, I can't remember the guy's name off the top of my head, but I was like, do you have anywhere around here I can lock up my kayak that isn't a high traffic area? I'm worried about it being stolen. And he's like, well, how about I put it in this building and lock the door? And I was like, well, that'd be great, but what if I need to get it? That was kind of my thought. But man, it looks so nice in here. It was like it had its own showroom for the night. But worked out well. Storms. My wife reserved me a room at the local inn, so I got to enjoy the incoming weather as I made my way over. It's pretty cool. I mean, the camera doesn't do it justice, but I love these systems that come in and the clouds just swept up over the top of this shelf here. It was really cool looking. All right, so we're here in Trompe-l'Œil, Wisconsin, if that's how you pronounce his name. I have no idea. And I'm at the inn on the river, waiting to check in, and here's some of the weather that's been moving in. It's been kind of creeping in all day, but it finally is getting here. And yeah, it's quite an impressive looking front here. So, looking at the storm a little bit ago, I was able to notice kind of the telltale signs of high winds. Starting to see some lightning and getting the breeze coming straight now out of the north. So, yeah, this is the reason I am off the river for the night. Even though it is only 12:30 in the morning, it's getting kind of darker around here. Yeah, they weren't there for me to check in. It's just a small little inn, and I don't think they got there till like 2 or 3, so I had to just sit on their little patio and kind of wait out the weather. But you know, I actually enjoyed it. It was nice to just not be on the river and dealing with it. The Inn on the River is a great little hotel right on the banks of the Mississippi. In my opinion, the best seats in town. So the Inn on the River, the marina's right here, kind of right next to the lock, and it's a ways to walk that. It's like a mile walk or so. If you need a place to stay around Trompe-l'Œil, this is a great little spot. They are super kind. This is one of the owners right here, Virgilio, I think his name is, and then Teresa are the owners. I think they live there part of the year or all the year. Train tracks right outside the front door. They were super nice to me. We actually stayed there on our way back home from Louisiana when the trip was over, and she gave me a room on the house, and super kind. She was so excited to see me come back and to hear that we had made it. I actually did a ton of drone shots for her and her little inn, so she could use them for advertisements or whatever she wanted. So that was my thank you back to her. Was I shot a ton of drone footage for her.
To find solid ground, we'll pace these streets but forget who we are. Lost in the chase, dreams covered in scars.
One of my favorite drone shots.
Sometimes tell my heart, traded for nickels and dimes. I could leave it, stop believing, but I feel the wind remind me I don't have to fly away tonight.
So you can see the marinas right here. You'll walk through down the tracks, down this road, and then just right along the river, and then the inn is just right down that road. Almost impossible to miss if you come down. This is a statue. That statue's actually sitting here now, but anyway. Yeah, easy to get to if you don't mind the walk. So what Trompe-l'Œil is not good for is a resupply. The only store that I was aware of was a little convenience store that was quite a ways off the river. The owners of the inn were actually kind enough to drive me up there, and I resupplied. And they actually had like pizza and burgers and stuff I think you could buy. And boy, did I bring back that junk to the hotel room. I ate a whole pizza that night, I remember. It was good.
But yeah, they had your basic snacks and granola bars and everything, but I had to get a ride to get there because it was just so far away. Right next to the inn, there's like a little coffee shop and there's some little options right there you can use. So it's not a bad spot to stop. It's just a little bit of a hassle to kind of get in and out of the inn from the marina.
Weather. Storms got pretty gross and a lot of lightning, and lightning is a no-go when you're paddling, so got the hell off the water and stayed away from that as best I could.
Turns out that Lars and Marianne actually stopped here in Trempealeau too, and they had somebody pick them up and bring them to their house, and they were, I don't know if they were in front of me or behind me, but they were somewhere around here, and we left at the same time, but they had messaged me, but by the time I'd gotten the message, I was already way downriver, and so we just never paddled together again after this, but they did make it here safely and got out of the weather themselves.
Quite a few in today. Late start, it's 9:30. The marina where I kept my boat didn't open till 9, and so I had my boat locked up in one of their little members' houses where they have a bar and stuff, and that was great because it kept the boat safe and protected all night, but the drawback was waiting until 9 to get it. No big deal. So we're getting out here now. We're gonna make up for lost time, hopefully. It's supposed to be hot, but I think we'll do okay. So yeah, it's all about miles now. No doubt that we'll get through La Crosse today. Don't know if we'll get to the Iowa border, but if that's not today, I definitely think that'll be tomorrow.
Quite a few boats around the La Crosse area, so just something to be aware of.
Good night's sleep. So in on the river, if you're interested, Trempealeau, Wisconsin. The marina is right next to Lock and Dam 6 on the left side. So if you're heading this way and you need to get off the river, or you just need a recharge or anything, it's a great place to look into.
It's a very scenic part of the river with the bluffs. They go on forever, it seems.
So we are coming up on Lock and Dam number 7.
So this is the only time I ever pulled the cord. I wanted to see the process and what it was like, just so if anybody ever asked me, I could tell them. I pulled the cord like 5 times and never got a response until I got into the lock. The doors just opened, the light turned green, there was no tows behind me, so I went in, talked to the guy, and I told him, I said, hey, I've been pulling the cord and I never heard from you guys, and they said they don't normally answer. So I don't know if that's normal or not, but just know that pulling the cord might not get you a verbal response.
All right, so just downriver from Lock and Dam 7 is the Interstate 90 bridge. This is the last major bridge last major interstate before you leave Minnesota. So we're starting to run into the lasts of Minnesota.
It's always fun trying to film and talk and people are constantly waving at you.
Cross.
Yeah, so again, bunch of boats in La Crosse, tons of little islands and stuff, a lot of fishing going on when I came through there, so just heads up.
We are still about 15 miles or so upriver from Lock and Dam 8. It's just hot today. It's steamy. Taking a little break here. Half hour, 45 minutes, hour, who knows. As long as I feel like. Found myself a nice little perch here. Keeps me up off the dirty sand, off the mud, so I'm happy about that. So that big old barge just went through. I was a little worried that he'd be throwing the kayak around on shore, but it actually wasn't too bad. So, but yeah, just gonna chill in the shade and cool down.
Before many of the locks, you will come across what are referred to as pools. These are huge areas in the river with little current. They are similar in size and scale to Lake Pepin. It was really neat to see entire trains across the river.
Yeah, the scale of these pools is like Lake Pepin. They're huge, and I didn't really have a buoy line to follow everywhere I went, and so I kind of just did my best.
You know,
There was a couple times out in those huge pools where I actually ran aground on sandbars, and you don't even see them, and then you just hit them, and then boom, it's just this massive area of sand, and you either got to back off it or walk or go around or do something. Huge areas. They're a little disheartening when you come up on them, and it takes a little getting used to knowing you got to do them. A little baby deer swimming. I actually was going to try to catch it and see if I could help it, because it was pretty far from shore, but I couldn't get anywhere near it, and I figured it would probably be better not to stress the animal out and just let it do its thing, so I let her go. But yeah, it's little Bambi doing its thing. It did make it. I did keep an eye on it from as far as I could, and it made it to shore. So
Genoa, Lock and Dam number 8.
power plants are huge. Like, they don't seem so big from the road or anything, but you paddle past them in a little itty bitty kayak, and they're big structures. It's cool. It's pretty crazy.
How's it going? I'm tired. Paddling across Lake Pepin 2.0 there.
Start out at the beginning of the Mississippi.
Itasca.
We can go all the way down the Gulf.
You gonna give her a shot, yeah?
Seems like every year we'll get a dozen or two of these people that try to...
A lot of the stories you have with people are pretty much the same exact story. It's almost word for word the same questions. You really do start to refine and get your answer perfected after a while. I was real lucky too, coming up on the locks. Up until like Lock 10, I really didn't have to wait, because a lot of the flooding, a lot of the barge traffic had been stopped because they had to dredge, like literally the whole river from the whole lock system of river, and it really slowed down the barge traffic.
What is going on, everybody? We are at a very big moment here. I am crossing out of my home state of Minnesota and into the state of Iowa. My new bordering states will now be Wisconsin and Iowa. That is 1/3 of the Mississippi River completed, and we are on our way. I am beat for the day. It was a hot, sticky day. I'm gonna go find a place to camp.
In case anybody wants to know, this is right side descending if you want to see it.
All right, so we found a place to camp. I am now in the state of Iowa, and that's where I am staying tonight, in the state of Iowa. There are some islands or bogs or some crap out here, and they have these really nice, like, raised up off the water campground areas, sandy beaches, and then fire pits and stuff. So I got a fire going. I just turned off the alcohol stove, and I am cooking a beef stew, ready-to-eat meal. So yeah, should be good. I am starving. It was a long day, and yeah, I got the hammock up again. Loving the hammock. I mean, that's kind of the way to go. So, yeah. So just waiting for this to get done cooking, if you will, and then I can eat. I've already had a granola bar since I was sitting here, and
Waiting for that meal to get done was like the longest 10 minutes of my life. I was so hungry.
It'd actually be a nice change. So. Not bad. I added some beef jerky for more beef, but some veggies and some warm food. I mean, gosh, it's going a really long way, so enjoying it so far.
I actually bought a little plastic bowl for this trip, and I ended up leaving it behind because I didn't have a great place to put it. I easily could have, but I just didn't. And I wish I would have brought it for this, because these bags, man, keep this heat in here like crazy. It takes forever for it to cool down, so I ate it just scorching hot, and I didn't really get to enjoy any of the flavor because it was so hot. But I was so hungry I couldn't wait anymore.
They're pretty much just shot. You know, you eat granola bars and stuff on the road, on the water, I should say, and it's all good and fine, but you need some real food to eat to actually make a difference. So as promised, here is a tour of the campground. So, upriver towards Minnesota, downriver into Iowa. There's the boat, chained up to a bunch of roots.
I want to show this tree. It was kind of crazy. I saw this a few times, but it's like the tree has its root system, and then the tree extends down again. And I've never seen that anywhere but on the river. I just thought that was a really weird thing. So I don't know if it maybe at one point this tree actually was on land and there's been this much erosion. That'd be my guess. But just a crazy thing to see roots half, I don't know, 5 feet up a stump like that.
There's the boat, chained up to a bunch of roots. Nice little beach up here.
And this little area is just down from the Iowa
nice
sign, on the Iowa side, and it's an island with campsites all down it. So it's a great spot to stop if you can make it to Iowa.
With 1/3 of the river now complete, I'll be leaving the state the river begins in and the place I call home. I hope you enjoyed episode 10 and will continue the adventure with me. Take care, and we'll see you on the next one.
Yeah, pretty big deal. Paddling out of Minnesota and finally making it to a new state. I think they say Minnesota's about 1/3 of the river. And I've never been to Iowa. I've been to Wisconsin many times, but it's my first time going that far south. I did fly to Florida and back, but never been past the southern border of Minnesota, so it was pretty cool to think that I actually had to paddle to do it. Yeah, neat. I think there's a bunch of erosion now. The sign leg is sticking out of the dirt, but let's see here. Maps. So this was just after that first Lock 5 past Winona. There's a marina, I believe, right here, and I was gonna stop there for weather, but ended up continuing on and made it to the Trempealeau. So 21.8 miles, almost 22 miles that day. And 24. This would have been day 24, so this is from Trempealeau down to the Iowa-Minnesota border, and you can see it wasn't that far past the border, and you're in that little island. It's really crazy too. So almost 42 miles, and you just got this straight little line, and you look at these maps after you paddle them, and you're like, it's hardly anything. But yeah, that's 42 miles. Gives a sense of scale of just how big the river is. It's just like this long straight shot. This is one of the pools here, I think. Maybe this was the pool, I guess. But yep. And let's jump into 11.
All right, it's not every day. All right, it is day 25, 8:45 in the morning. Getting another late start.
So I'm gonna blabble over my blabble. The heat from here on till I made it to Missouri was ungodly hot. It was steamy. The humidity was at or above 90% for like the next few days, or week. So I talk about in this stretch about this boater come up and start flashlighting my camp. So it was really, I'll just tell the story. It was really weird. So I'm parked here, and it's pitch black. I'm talking to my wife on the phone. I think it was about 11 or 11:30 at night, and I could hear this little putt-putt to this motor coming up the river. And I figured it was probably someone fishing, but there was no lights on the boat. There was 0 running lights, no red, green, and no stern light. And it was like a little 12-foot Alumacraft with a little chug-a-lug motor on it. And he kind of came creeping up, and then he stopped here, and he took his flashlight out, and he shined on my boat, and then he shined up at my hammock. So I figured that, obviously if you find a boat laying on the shore and there's nobody there, like it would catch my interest too. But he saw the hammock, so I assumed that he would just move on. But he just sat here, and he kind of kept sitting here fighting the current, didn't go anywhere, just sat here. And I was waiting for him to try to get out and mess with the boat or something. I don't know what he was doing. And he eventually putted away. He went up to the other end of the island where there was a father and some sons camping, and he pulled out his flashlight and was flashlighting them too and their stuff. And he turned around, came back down the river, killed his motor, and there's trails that you can kind of walk between these campsites. And so I thought when he killed his motor, I'm like, oh great, now he's gonna come walking over here. And the whole time I'm still on the phone. 10 minutes goes by, I was almost to the point of sleeping. I was so tired. He couldn't get his engine started, so he's down there, he's pull starting. So he gets it running, and he comes back up the river, no lights again, and he stops right by my boat, turns his flashlight on. He's flashlighting my boat, flashlighting my hammock. So finally I took out my flashlight, which was a brighter flashlight than his, and I hit it right in his face, and I walked down there and I said, is there something I can help you with? Do you have a problem? Is something wrong? And he turned off his flashlight and he putted along. He went up to where the dads and the sons were. He turned his light on again, and then they yelled at him. So I don't know if they heard me yelling at him or what, but he, after the dads yelled at him, he took off behind the island. He went around and off he went. We just heard him tear off. So I don't know. It was probably one of the stranger encounters I had. I don't really know what the guy was doing. I don't know if he was just looking to steal stuff. I don't know if he was fishing. I don't know. It was just kind of the creep alarm was going off. So interesting people on the river sometimes.
And he was spotlighting the shore. Josh, you mentioned your hammock. Please give us your thoughts on finding trees for your hammock on the rest of your trip. I don't think I had much of an issue finding trees for the hammock. Pretty much you have miles and miles of shoreline to choose your camp spot. The hammock was actually awesome for me because a lot of the shore was still wet from all the flooding if it wasn't underwater, and so it was amazing to be able to hang above the wet ground. But I don't think I ever really had an issue finding trees to hang from. The only issue I had a couple of times was the only trees that were a good space apart. There was the Massey Merino, however it's pronounced, and then there was an island further down in Iowa, and I think the trees had poison ivy vines going all up and down them, and the trees were perfectly spaced. It would have been absolutely perfect to hang from, but I didn't want to have my straps soaking up all that Urusha oil from the poison ivy, so I decided to tent that night. If it's not a flooded year and you have unlimited shoreline to choose from, I don't think you'll have much of an issue finding trees to hang from. I can say on that note about trees, I know Daryl and Jonathan, when we were up, I think it was the Leaning Willow campsite, all the trees that were there were just tiny little sapling trees, and I think Jonathan actually hung from them. But when he woke up in the morning, the trees had completely come down, and I think he was actually sitting on the ground. But there was a few times where they couldn't hang from trees in the early parts of the river, and I think they just threw their hammocks right on the ground, slept on top of them, and put their tarp over the top of them. Obviously, I wouldn't recommend that because I imagine ticks would be all over you. But a couple of days on the upper river could be a little challenging. Beyond that, I think you'll be just fine. These are all campsites here, all open to the public. You don't have to pay for them or nothing. So, it is the weekend. It is Saturday. June 29th. And boy, does it show. There are people everywhere. I'm passing dozens of boats an hour. I'm just coming up on Lansing, and there is campsites all along the islands that lead up to it, and they are all just getting filled up with folks, and they're all out swimming and paddling and having a great time. Jet skis are out there.
Man, jet skis are like gnats. I tell you, they just buzzing everywhere, and you can't get rid of them. But this is the most I've ever seen anybody actually swimming in the Mississippi River. Fishing down in Minneapolis all the time, I always thought the river was so disgusting, and it kind of is through there. But to see this level of people swimming and enjoying the water skiing, laying on those big foam mats, out in the river, it really kind of gave me a whole different view of the Mississippi, and I kind of realized that it probably ain't quite as bad as I thought it was.
Alright, rock on. So we're leaving Lansing now, or we're getting into Lansing or something. And got some water from the bar and grill. Lady was nice enough to stand there and fill up my thing. Took forever, but we got it, so it's good. Met an older gentleman who's a kayaker, 81, still kayaks.
Yeah, Earl Johnson, I'm 87 years old and I still kayak. Right on.
So he came running up.
Hey, so I pulled up to this boat launch, and the bar was right next to the boat launch, and there was a trailer sitting there, and there was nowhere to lock my kayak up, so I actually locked my kayak to somebody's trailer, and went up to the bar, asked the gal, I'm like, could you please fill my water jug, my 10-liter water bag, and after like 10 minutes of her running around servicing the customers, she actually stood there with the little bar nozzle and filled it up. Took for absolutely ever. I didn't have the heart to ask her to fill the second one because it took so long, but excuse me, I come back to the boat launch, and Earl, the old man, was sitting there, and I thought it was his trailer, so I was all worried that he was going to be upset, but he was so excited to talk to me about the trip. He absolutely loved the idea of doing the river. I don't know if he ever would, but he was so excited to tell me that he still kayaks, and I thought that was just the coolest thing.
Out to see the boat and the trip, and talk to him, gave him a card. Hopefully he'll check out the videos. Met a sweet little girl. She was just standing there watching. I think she just wanted to watch me launch the boat. So
she was super friendly. I don't know where she came from, but she was just sitting there, and I said hi to her and asked her if she wanted to wave, and I put her in the video, of course, and she said she loves being on the water. So
I am now full of water.
Friendly people in Lansing.
And heading on down river. It is very wavy, very busy area. It'll be nice to kind of get past some of this, so. But 'tis the river.
That's another one of the big pools. Huge areas. They just seem to go on forever. This thing's pretty cool. It's actually a giant crane, and it comes out, goes over a barge, drops a huge bucket scoop for coal, I'm sure, for the plant. Just big, huge structures. It just makes you feel so tiny. I wish my video of it was better because it was cool looking. Waterborne camper. I hope you can get away someday like this too, because it really is an amazing experience. I think these sections of the river are roughly 1.5 miles across, kind of at their wider points, just for reference.
Alright, coming up on Lock and Dam 9 here pretty soon. Man, I'm hot. Found a little batch of shade and a little batch of sand, and I am taking full advantage. So,
That's probably the worst part about the giant pools. It isn't so much their size and getting across them, it's that there's no cover from the sun anywhere. And some of these pools, you actually, you come around the bend and then you eventually got to cross them. And man, they're long. And I remember that heat just sitting there cooking in the boat. I think the Kevlar boats really hold the heat, but huge areas.
And I'm battling it the whole way, so, which it is what it is. It doesn't really matter. I mean, if I'm out in the deeper water, the waves kind of just roll under me and I don't really notice them. On shore here, now I'll have to actually deal with them a little bit more, but it's just nice to find a little patch of shade. I'm gonna take a few minutes here.
It always seemed too like when there was boats out there, the boats were always pointing directly at you. So just keep your eyes open, because these people are just flying, and I don't know how much they can really see or pay attention to what they're doing, but keep an eye out. So here I just called this lock. Again, this was purely for making a video for people of how to get through locks, and just wanted to see what it was like, wanted to film it, and so yeah, there ain't a whole lot here, ain't no real reason to listen to me yap to this guy. He's a nice guy though.
Now that I'm out of the way, there should be plenty of room. All the way.
Gabriel, welcome.
Nice folks, curious about the trip, threw him a card.
So Waterborne Camper, how long would you say you put into planning this trip? Like serious planning and not just daydreaming. Yeah, the daydreaming by far was the longest. The mental preparation was huge. The thought of being gone that long and doing a trip of this scale on a river this big and strong was definitely the most taxing part of preparing. I would say, because I did do a short trip in 2018 on the headwaters just kind of for fun. I don't know, man. I put days and days and days into reading maps and reading other people's information. I think especially for the folks that are in the planning stages now, you understand that you probably are overdoing it. I know I overplanned, but I actually went through Google Maps and went every mile on the river through Google Maps and looked at everything. Serious planning was probably into the couple months, I'd say. It's hard to say because I had a year to plan, and it was over the course of that year that I did it. So, but it was a lot. I mean, every scrap of information I could get on the river, every video I could find, I watched, took notes. I mean, I did my due diligence in learning the river. I often said that I've done the river twice, once in research and once in person. And I probably would do another river the same way. I do now know that being on the backside, that amount of preparation probably wasn't necessary, but to every paddler their own. I enjoyed the research as much as I did doing the trip.
Offered to tow me for a few miles, and I told him I better not, because if I do it once, I'll probably continue doing it. So cool to talk to somebody. They were really curious about the trip, and
yeah, I had a few people ask me if I wanted to ride, and they'd bring me 10-15 miles, and I had to turn them down because I wanted to paddle the whole river, and I knew if I accepted help or got in someone's boat and went flying down the river, how much I'd love it, and I just didn't do it. So after Lock 9 was the busiest I seen the river. There was miles of these boats. Some people were trying to get me to come over and hang out. I'm not a huge party person, paddle people person anyway, so I kind of just kept on going. Small groups are fine, but man, there's a lot of people there. I'm a quiet guy, if you don't believe it. But so many people, and I probably could have stopped, had some barbecue or something, and maybe if I went again I would, because I just think I don't know, I just wanted to keep going. That was always my thing, was I just wanted to keep going during the day. But you can see here, it was just boat after boat after boat. It was insane how many boats were coming through this area. This is the flooding I was trying to show here. All these islands were underwater.
yeah, it's pretty obvious.
Theoretically, I could have stopped and hung from the trees if I had to. The other shoreline, I think there was some train tracks on it, a bunch of rocks and stuff, so it was really hard to find a spot. But this is a public camp spot here, so it worked out perfect.
Noodles, dehydrated ground beef. So I finally found a place to camp. I am just downriver from Lock and Dam 9, a few miles. Holy hell. It's Saturday. And there was more boats out there than I've ever seen at one time. It's just been a parade of boats going by. It's insane. I've been fighting the waves constantly. And a lot of the islands are underwater. And you can see the trees and everything, but the ground is underwater. So you can't use them. So I had to look and look and look and look and look to find a spot, and I finally found a really nice sandy beach. There's a bunch of tipped over trees here, so a kayak can get through there, but no boats. So that made it really nice. So I got a spot for the night. It was really hot, so I wanted to end the day. Get a good dinner. Hooked over an open fire. It's hitting the spot. So I'm hoping that I don't have any spotlighters tonight.
Of course, many of you know I didn't cook very often, but man, this was a good meal. I remember this meal. I was hungry after that hot, steamy day.
Lock and Dam 10 tomorrow. I'll go through Gutenberg. I was gonna stay at the landing.
It literally sounded like a drag strip. Like, these are the people who soup up the boats. They put the biggest, loudest pipes on them they could find, and they just scream up and down the river. And as cool as they are, I mean, I'm a car guy myself, but as cool as the boats are, I really like the peace and quiet, and there was no peace and quiet on this day.
Oh no, it wasn't a bad day. Just hot, really hot, really sticky hot.
Really hot.
I hung out a bunch of clothes last night to dry. They're exactly as wet as when I hung them up. They didn't dry at all. So it's just hot and sticky, and hopefully that'll end soon.
It was so hot. But yeah, it is. You can see the shirt's really starting to get. This shirt is permanently stained like this too. It's disgusting. I kept it just because it was my river shirt, but yeah, I could not get anything to dry out. I would hang up a wet shirt, go to bed, wake up, put on a wet shirt. So
Situation is very hot, very sticky. I have.
And you know, I could try to dry them over the fire, but it was so wet out that it was really hard to keep the fire going. And a lot of this, you know, you can see how high the water is. A lot of the sticks and branches and stuff were in the water not that long ago, so it was really hard to keep fires going that were useful for anything.
Down to Lock and Dam 10 at least. That's Gutenberg, and hopefully beyond. I, as always, just want to get miles in, but it's been tough with the heat because it's so oppressively humid and hot. It's just like that. So.
Waterborne camper, that sounds amazing. I will not write that one off. That might be something I will take somebody up on. Barges. I love seeing the barges. This little dude, he popped out of a river somewhere. I don't even know where he came from, and we were almost going the same speed down the river, and finally I just stopped and let him pass me because didn't like having him behind me. Prefer to be out of their way completely, but
All right, just leaving the Marquette Marina. They resupplied me with water, gave me a Gatorade. Super great people.
yeah, you can actually see the boat launch is just under that bridge. And so I paddled up to the little marina there and talked to the
All right, just leaving the
owner.
Marquette Marina. They resupplied me with water, gave me.
So the boat launch is right here. You can actually kind of see my kayak, and I'm always nervous to leave the boat. You just leave it here, and then you walk around. And I asked the guy, I'm like, "You think anybody's gonna be at this launch?" No, don't worry. There's nobody at the launch ever. And of course, I lock up the boat, and walk over there, and somebody pulls up. So I
I'm
did.
very grateful that I stopped.
Keep a close
so
eye
if
on
you come this
everything,
way,
but-
you need some water. Marquette Marina, next to the giant casino ship. Nice people.
Yeah, it was cool. I was at that little marina for probably over an hour, sitting in the AC. They were giving me Gatorades and stuff to drink. It was a great little stop. Very, very nice people there. Yeah, Gabriel, luckily I didn't have too much for waves. I had a couple of big waves from one from a barge that you'll see later in the video series, and then I'll tell the story when we get there, I'm sure, but I had an ocean liner throw up some huge waves from behind me, and I actually took them kind of in my rear left quarter to my front right, and the waves kind of came over the top of me. It was a really awkward way to take the wave, but no, when that skirt was on, man, I felt almost invincible when I had the skirt on the kayak. I felt like I could go through anything.
Thank you very much.
So even in the flooded river, a lot of people ask about the current around the dams, the locks and dams. So I actually just back paddled and just sat here. I would slowly drift towards the lock, and then I could actually back paddle. I didn't even have to turn around. And I would just kind of keep doing that. A lot of times I'd actually pull off to the side of the, I don't know, guide wall. I call it a guide wall. I guess I don't know what it really is. But so even on a flood year, I was able to kind of handle that current. One thing that didn't make the video, here we'll get a view that's not my face. One thing that didn't make the video is there was these little islands before the lock here, and there was almost no wind for a while, and all of a sudden this gust of wind came over the bluffs down onto the river, and I watched it cross the river and hit me, and it had to have gone to like 30-mile-an-hour wind just instantly, and I actually had to stop and get out at that little island and pull the boat up because the waves were starting to swamp me. Speaking of waves, and yeah, it was just this freak little windstorm. It came out, it hit me. It was like 10 minutes, and then boom, it just went away. It was gone again. Just crazy. I have no idea what was going on.
Couple other boats waiting.
Of course, nobody asked if I needed any help.
No biggie. It happens. I haven't had to wait too much up till this point, so.
I was real
Aside from
lucky,
that,
though, that there actually was an island to stop on, because if I had to get out of one of the rocky shorelines, that would have been awful. At that point, I probably would have put the bow into the wind and then paddled across, but
As these guys get out of the way and get on through, we'll be on our way.
so this is the landing. If you ever watch the in-transit videos, they stayed at the landing here. I really wanted to. They had a funeral, I guess, so they were packed, but it would have been a great little spot. You can actually park here, and then the landing is the hotel right here. I really was looking forward to a shower that night because it was so hot, and didn't get one, so it was a big bummer. Let's see, we got John asking, what channel did you use to communicate with the locks? Did you monitor any channels to hear the tows? So on the upper river, tows and the locks are all on channel 14, and after you get, there's, I think, one or two of the locks are on channel 12, I believe. You can look them up. I can't remember which ones are on 12. I think it's 12, but 14 will allow you to communicate with all the locks, well, all the locks except for 2, and then tows. Once you get past that, then I think they switch over to 67, if I remember correctly. If you're doing the trip and you need the actual answer to that, let me know and I'll look it up. Pretty sure it was 14 and 67 that I used for the most part. And someone else in here might be able to answer that too.
Hi. To the goal.
Let's get caught up on some questions here. River people are always almost good folks, no matter where you are. That is absolutely true. There was one couple I did not like. We'll get to them when we get to them, and I'll tell you the story. But everybody on the river almost was just awesome. Let's see. What channel did you use? We covered that. Did you leave your marine radio on all the time? If I was going around locks, it was on, and if I was anywhere near the anywhere near a lot of towboat traffic, I would leave it on. It ran on AAA batteries, so it would shoot through batteries pretty quick, so I didn't always have it on. But it did have a weather radio, so I could use that as well. But for the most part, it was on near locks, near tows. And when I got down into southern Louisiana, Baton Rouge to the Gulf, it was on all day, and that was because of all the shipping traffic. What's your longest day without a nice shower? Or longest time without a shower? Probably, I don't really know the answer to that. Probably not more than 2 weeks. Probably not more than 2 weeks. Too long. And Lock 24 on our channel 12. Okay, so here we go. And if you are planning the trip, I do have a card I made with all the locks and all the phone numbers, their location, and their channel. If you ever need that, just let me know and I'll email it to you. Yeah, it's just this nice quiet day. There was nothing going on, and then all of a sudden I get all this wind. And if you start getting wind, start looking around. You might have some dark clouds coming in on you.
All right, so we made it here to Cassville, Wisconsin. Hey, I just so happened to look behind me and notice that the sky was looking a little unfriendly.
There was probably 20 boats trying to get out of the river at the time I pulled up, and so I basically cut in line and threw my boat on the wheels and hauled up to the overhang here. But nobody was worried about me getting out of the river.
Trying to get their stuff out. I don't really have anywhere else to go. There is an indoor restroom. If it gets really bad, I'll run over there, but I think this will be just fine for me. But yeah, so stupid storms. I was wondering where all this wind was coming from.
I'll tell you, even though it was storming like this, it felt so nice because it cooled down so much. Thankfully, my kayak was too heavy to blow away.
So I got my most important my bag with me. If I need to run across the way to the bathroom, I can.
Yeah, I finally went over to the restroom. I grabbed a bunch of toilet paper for the trip. Washed up my hands and stuff. It was just kind of nice to clean up a little bit, and eventually made my way back over.
The pavilion.
It was a good story.
I don't like sitting in bathrooms. Had the Mari tied down. Didn't go anywhere. It's good. This is what 40% chance of storms looks like. All right, so we are here in the Cassville Park, right along the Mississippi River, and man, it's amazing.
Let's see, Brody, were there any spots you had to paddle up the river, and how did you deal with that?
Called and talked to the local.
So there was a couple of times I had to do that. It really wasn't a big deal. I was just talking about at Lock 10, I was back paddling, holding my position, waiting for everybody to come through. It wasn't bad at all, even though it was really flooded. I actually was able to turn around and paddle back upriver. God, there was a spot where I tried to do it and I could no longer do it, but it was past the halfway point. There was a spot down in Baton Rouge where a dredge captain asked me if I would kind of hold my spot in the river while somebody came through. I think one of the ocean liners was going to pull out, and I turned around and I tried to paddle, and as hard as I could paddle, I could not paddle against the current. I was still going down river, and so that was kind of a eye-opener for me. That was the first time that I really knew that I was on a one-way trip down river. There was a time down in Mississippi where I tried to cheat and take a little cut through shortcut. It wasn't a cut through, and I had to paddle back against the current there, and that was exhausting. It was like 3 miles or something I had to paddle, and it was the full torrent of the river, and as hard as I was paddling, I was just barely moving. Be careful anywhere near supercell thunderstorms and wall clouds. They are the main generators of tornadoes and often from along. Yeah, so I'm a Skywarn spotter, and so we had just taken our class for that before I went on the trip. And I love weather. I mean, every time it storms really bad, I usually jump in my truck and go out and film them anyway. So yeah, no, I'm definitely aware. I'm pretty sure we met last year, by the way, your Yak Legion podcast. Oh yeah, definitely. I know exactly who you are then, Waterborne Camper. I do remember you. Yeah, those podcasts were a good time. Oh yeah, rock on. If you got a link for that, I'll definitely check it out. I got nothing better to do during the winter than watch other people kayak, so...
Since I'm kind of seeking shelter and I'm on the road.
But yeah, so one thing I would add, most parks and stuff, they have signs everywhere, no camping allowed and everything. If you are having to take shelter from severe weather, my recommendation is to call the local non-emergency number. Just tell them that you're traveling the river and that you're seeking shelter from the storms and you have nowhere else to go. You have to make sure you stress that point to them, and that you're going to be staying in the park, and that I always told them, I said, I'll be out bright and early in the morning. No one will ever know I'm here. I'm not going to trash the place. And I mean, every single time I did that, they were super cool about it. They didn't care at all. So just make that little extra effort to give them a call, just so they know you're there. I think they even said they had a squad drive by just to make sure everything was all right with me. I never saw them, so if they did come, great. But it's just nice when you give them a heads up you're there. That way, if someone doesn't show up patrolling area and you're just camping there like you're living there or anything. Let's see, did you feel like you were shooting miles, or did it feel slow as you were paddling slowly but surely? It was kind of both. It depended on where I was, what was going on. The heat is what really made miles seem long. Some of those hot days was just incredible, but what was really crazy is, I'd paddle for 10-hour days or whatever, especially on the lower river. I'd go 50, 60 miles, and it really didn't seem to take as long as you think it would. The day would go quick. I love being on the water. I loved being on the river. So I enjoyed all the time I was out there. Even the days I'd get crabby and grouchy about the heat, I still enjoyed being on the water. And I always look forward to my campsites at night, because I always wanted to just lay in the hammock and watch the river flow by and see the barge traffic. I always really enjoyed that. So the heat made some days last a little longer than I probably wanted them to, but no, I would check my phone every now and then, kind of see where I was on miles. I had Strava for the app, and so I knew kind of how many I had gone. If you don't check that, you go farther faster, and when you sit there and watch the clock, or you watch the miles on your phone, it seems to take longer. But yeah, no, I always enjoyed it. So but it's funny, like I'd wake up and I'd be like, oh, I'm already back on the river, can't believe it. I feel like I was barely at camp, and then before long I was sitting at camp going, man, I can't believe I'm already back at camp. So but yeah, let's get our mileage maps in here. So this is day 25, so 32.5 miles. Again, just doesn't look like much on the map, but yeah, 32 miles. So this would have been one of the pools. Had to cross it to get to the other side, so the lock would have been over here. Almost 5 miles an hour, so started moving at this point. And then day 26 and 35.5 miles ish. So just, isn't that crazy? That's 35 miles right there. 9 hours. So yeah, and the timing can always be off too. I mean, I could have very well stopped and took a break or something, and I just kept it running. I never stopped it. 5 miles an hour, look at that. Easy. So if you guys got no further questions, that's all I was planning on doing for tonight. Glad y'all decided to hang out, and yeah, it was a good time, a good stream. It's a good trip. You know what? I'm so sorry, but my interest is a... Sounds good, man. Well, I appreciate you swinging by. We're all done. I don't got anything else for tonight. We'll just do 2 episodes at a time. So, appreciate y'all swinging by. Take care. Next Friday, I might do a Saturday stream. It's my wife's birthday. So, that's just a little bit of a heads up on that. Aside from that, y'all take care. And as always, we'll see you on the next one.